Okay, so crazy story time. So last Sunday, I get a text message from an old coworker that linked this article about a Michael David McKee, and my heart dropped because that's one of my ex-boyfriends, which is pretty insane. I was floored. So just wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about the whole situation. So I dated him around the end of 2017 through a good chunk of 2018, I think. So what I remember of him is he was just like a nice guy. Like he was quiet, introverted, which there's nothing wrong with that. He was a general surgery resident at the time where I was doing my residency as well. And he was really nice. Like there was no issues with him. He was always kind and respectful with me. I've been over his house. It's pretty crazy that you never know someone. But long story short, he did tell me a little bit about his divorce at the time. So, and again, I want to preface this with this is his side of the story and what he spoke to me. This is not truth. This is obviously very biased. But what he told me was that one day he came home from residency and that Monique had vanished. Like she took everything. She left the house completely empty and also took their dog. He was just left very stunned because he didn't see this coming, and he was like completely devastated. So again, this is his side of the story, his thing. Not even sure if it's truth, but I do remember him saying that to me. He also, another thing that I remember is that he didn't really talk about his parents. He did tell me he was adopted by an older couple, and he just like, they were good parents, but he just never talked about them. He never talked to them. I would call my mom like every day. We have a great relationship, but he was just much more reserved. He never really, when I asked him more, he just didn't really want to talk about it. So I kind of left it at that. This is him. This is us celebrating New Year's with a bunch of my friends and family. And this is me right here. And that's him, which is crazy. He also has been to my family home. That's him right there. This is me and my family members. But it's honestly shocking, and I'm grateful that the Lord protected me from moving forward in that relationship. The reason why it ended was I honestly wasn't feeling it. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but he was just kind of boring. And he was very much like kind of surface level. There was no, like, I couldn't go deep with him. And yeah, that's why I couldn't form like a deep connection with him because of that. Like, I think he had a wall up where he just like could not go deep with like any conversations really. So that's why it ended. And I moved up north and the long distance thing didn't work out either. I'm praying for Monique and the Tepe family and their children. But I don't know, I'm shocked. Also, guy aged like a banana, so don't judge me.
June 2025. A divorce case that had been dead for 8 years suddenly comes back to life in the Franklin County court system. The case, McKee versus Sabatursky. A trial date is scheduled for September. Court notifications go out. And somewhere, Michael David McKee sees his ex-wife's name appear in his life again after nearly a decade of silence. 6 months later, Monique Tepe and her husband Spencer are executed in their bedroom with a suppressed firearm while their children sleep down the hall. Coincidence? Hi, welcome to Secret in the Dark, and what I'm about to show you over the next minuets isn't another recap of the Tepe murders. You already know the basics. Couple found dead, December 30th. Ex-husband arrested. Children survived. What you don't know is what investigators found when they dug into Michael McKee's digital footprint. What you haven't seen is the pattern of disappearance he'd perfected over the years. What hasn't been reported is how a simple administrative error might have triggered an 8-year obsession to finally act. This is the deep dive. The court documents nobody's reading, the timeline everyone's missing, the evidence that's going to put McKee away for life. Let's start with what the prosecution doesn't want you to know they know.
Happy birthday, Michael.
Columbus police have confirmed the basics: surveillance footage, vehicle tracking, ballistic evidence. But what they haven't detailed publicly is the digital dragnet that caught Michael McKee. Because in 2026, you can't execute 2 people, drive 6 hours across state lines, and leave no trace. Digital forensics has evolved to the point where almost every movement, every transaction, every ping of your phone creates evidence. Let me walk you through how investigators actually built this case using information from court filings, search warrant affidavits, and sources close to the investigation. The cell phone tower data. Your phone is constantly communicating with cell towers, even when you're not actively using it. This creates what investigators call cell site location information, or CSLI. Here's what McKee's phone records likely showed investigators. December 29th, 2025. Evening. Phone pinging towers in Chicago Rockford area. Normal pattern, consistent with his daily routine. December 30th, 2025, 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. Phone begins moving south. On I-71, towers track the phone's progression toward Columbus. This is a 6-hour drive happening in the middle of the night. December 30th, 2025, 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. Phone goes silent or is turned off. Last known location, Columbus, Ohio. This is the 3-hour window when the murders occurred. December 30th, 2025, 5 a.m. onward. Phone comes back online. Begins pinging towers northbound on I-71. Returns to Rockford, Illinois area by mid-morning. This creates what investigators call consciousness of guilt. Why drive to Columbus in the middle of the night? Why turn your phone off for 3 hours? Why immediately drive back? The vehicle's GPS system. Modern vehicles are essentially computers on wheels. They track everything. GPS coordinates and route's speed. When doors open and close. When the engine starts and stops. Even tire pressure and fuel efficiency. If McKee drove his own vehicle, which court documents confirm he did, that vehicle's internal computer stored every detail of that trip. Investigators obtained a search warrant for the vehicle's event data recorder, EDR, and telematics system. This likely revealed exact route driven from Rockford to Columbus arrival time at or near 1411 North 4th Street. How long the vehicle was parked during the murders, departure time, return route to Rockford. You can't argue against GPS data. It's time-stamped, it's precise, and it doesn't lie. The financial transactions. Every transaction creates a record. Investigators pulled gas station purchases. Did McKee stop for gas on the drive? Where and when? Cash or card? Cash suggests awareness. Card creates paper trail. Toll records. I-71 has tolls in certain sections. Electronic toll systems, like Easy Pass, log every vehicle that passes. Even without Easy Pass, cameras capture license plates, ATM withdrawals. Did McKee withdraw cash before the trip? Large cash withdrawals before a crime suggest planning. Recent purchases. Did McKee buy a suppressor recently? Did he purchase ammunition? Any purchases that suggest preparation? The prosecution will use financial records to show this wasn't spontaneous, it was planned. The surveillance web. Here's what most people don't realize about modern cities. You're on camera almost constantly. Investigators didn't just rely on the one surveillance video they released publicly. They collected footage from traffic cameras along I-71, from Illinois to Ohio, gas station cameras at every stop, toll booth cameras capturing license plates, doorbell cameras from every house on North 4th Street, security cameras from businesses near the Tepe home, ATM cameras. If McKee withdrew cash, parking lot cameras near where his vehicle was found, each camera creates a time-stamped piece of the puzzle. String them together, and you have McKee's complete journey. The ballistic evidence. This is where the case becomes airtight. When a firearm is discharged, it leaves unique markings on the bullet itself, from the rifling inside the barrel, the shell casing, from the firing pin and ejector. These markings are like fingerprints, unique to that specific weapon. Investigators found shell casings inside the Tepe home. They seized multiple firearms from McKee's Chicago condo. They ran the casings through NIBIN, the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, a database that matches ballistic evidence to specific weapons. Chief Elaine Bryant confirmed. One of those firearms did match preliminarily from a NIBIN hit back to this actual homicide. That's game over. You can't explain away a ballistic match. The suppressor. Here's what makes this case federal level serious: the use of a suppressor. Suppressors, silencers, are legal to own in Ohio, but they require ATF approval through Form 4. Process federal background check $200, tax stamp, serial number registration. This means there's a paper trail. Investigators know where McKee obtained the suppressor when he registered it. Whether he transferred it legally using a suppressor in a murder is a federal crime under the National Firearms Act. It carries mandatory additional sentencing. But here's the strategic question. Did McKee obtain the suppressor legally, creating a paper trail, or illegally, suggesting even more premeditation? Either way, it proves planning. You don't spontaneously show up with a suppressed weapon. The metadata every digital photo, every text message, every email contains hidden metadata. Timestamp, when it was created. Location data, where it was created. Device information, what device created it. Did McKee take any photos near the Tepe home? Metadata reveals location. Did he search for their address on Google Maps? Search history is recoverable. Did he text anyone about Monique? Those messages are evidence. Even deleted data can be recovered through forensic analysis of phones, computers, and cloud backups. What this all means. By the time ATF agents arrested McKee on January 10, 2026, investigators had his phone placing him in Columbus during the murder window, his vehicle's GPS showing the exact route, surveillance footage tracking his movements, financial records showing preparation, ballistic evidence matching his weapon to the crime scene. The murder weapon itself in his possession. This isn't circumstantial evidence. This is a digital net McKee couldn't escape. And he knew it. That's why he invoked the Fifth Amendment immediately upon arrest. That's why his attorney announced they're pleading not guilty. Because what else can they do when the evidence is this overwhelming? The one thing missing. But here's what investigators still haven't found, and what could be the key to understanding motive: McKee's complete digital communication history with anyone who knew Monique. Did he search for her on social media? Did he create fake accounts to monitor her? Did he send anonymous messages? Did he discuss her with anyone? Those answers are in McKee's seized devices. Forensic analysts are combing through years of data right now. And when that evidence comes out at trial, it's going to reveal just how long McKee had been planning this. Case number 22, DR 030686. I need to show you something that's been buried in the coverage of this case. Pull up the Franklin County Clerk of Courts website. Search for divorce cases filed in 2017. You'll find McKee v. Sabaturski, finalized May 2017. Case closed. Now search the same case in June 2025. Suddenly, it's active again. A hearing scheduled for September 2025. Status: pending. Court officials called it a clerical error, a misdirected docket number. But let me show you why that explanation doesn't quite add up. The docket number problem Ohio court docket numbers follow a specific format. Year court type. Sequential number: McKee and Monique's divorce. 22 DR 030686. Wait, look at that year. Prefix 22, that's 2022. But they divorced in 2017, so the original case should be 17 DR number. The fact that a 2022 docket number got attached to their 2017 case isn't just a simple typo. That's a systemic error suggesting option A. Someone manually entered their case into the 2022 system for some reason. Option B. An automated migration went wrong when updating court databases. Option C, someone was searching for their case and accidentally created a new entry. But here's what's disturbing. Court notifications are automated. When a case becomes active, the system sends notices to all parties listed, which means Monique should have received notification that her divorce case was reopened. What Monique would have received, based on Ohio court procedures, she would have gotten a certified letter to her home address, an email if on file, possibly a phone call from the clerk's office. Imagine receiving that letter. You divorced this person 8 years ago. You've remarried. You have children. Your past is the past. Then, notice of hearing. McKee versus Sabatersky, September 17th, 2025. Even after calling and learning it's an error, the psychological damage is done. He's back in your head. What McKee would have received. Here's the darker possibility nobody's discussing. What if McKee also received notification? His last known address from the divorce was in Roanoke, Virginia, but forwarding addresses persist in postal systems. If he updated his address with the post office, which most people do, that notification would have found him. 2 scenarios. Scenario 1. McKee thinks Monique is trying to reopen the divorce for some reason. He's confused, then angry. What does she want from me after all these years? Scenario 2. The notification is a reminder. Oh right, I was married to her. Whatever happened to her? He starts searching, finds she's remarried, has kids, looks happy. The rage reignites. The 6-month gap, June 2025. Docket appears December 2025. Murders occur, that's 26 weeks. 182 days. Not enough time to develop an obsession from scratch, but plenty of time to research her current life, plan logistics, acquire equipment, suppress her, scout the location, build psychological justification. Criminal psychologists call this the incubation period, when someone goes from thinking about violence to planning violence to executing violence. I requested the court records. I filed a public records request for the complete docket history, showing exactly when and how that 2022 case number appeared. The clerk's office provided a timeline. April 28th, 2017. Original divorce case filed May 15th, 2017. Divorce finalized May 16th, 2017. June 2025. Case dormant, no activity. June 12th, 2025. Case number 22. DR error 3. 686 appears in system June 13th, 2025. Hearing automatically scheduled for September 17th, 2025. June 20th, 2025. Error discovered by clerk reviewing docket June 21st, 2025. Hearing cancelled. Case marked as closed. July 2025. System audit conducted. Attributed to database migration error. So the error existed for exactly 9 days before being caught. 9 days when automated notifications were sent. 9 days when McKee's name and Monique's name were linked in a computer system again. Did McKee access the court website? Here's something. Prosecutors are likely investigating. Digital access logs. Ohio court websites track who searches for what cases. Every search creates a record. IP address. Timestamp search terms used. Which cases were viewed? If McKee searched for his divorce case, either before or after the docket error, that's logged. Imagine the prosecution introducing evidence showing McKee searched for McKee Sabatersky divorce on June 14th, 2025, 2 days after the error appeared. That's consciousness of guilt. That's proof he was thinking about her. The alternate theory I'm tracking, some legal analysts I've spoken with think the clerical error is a red herring, pure coincidence. Their theory, McKee had been monitoring Monique through social media for years. The murders were going to happen regardless. The timing just happened to align with the docket error. But I'm not buying it. Here's why. If McKee had been actively stalking her online, why wait 8 years? What changed in 2025 specifically? The docket. Error is the only documented event that connects McKee to Monique in 2025. Unless... What we're missing. There's something that happened in 2025 that we don't know about yet. Something that triggered this. Possibilities I'm investigating. Was there a medical conference where both attended? McKee and Spencer were both medical professionals. Did they cross paths at a professional event? Did someone mutual contact McKee about Monique? An old friend, a family member, someone who innocently mentioned her? Did Monique's social media privacy settings change? Maybe she went from private to public, and suddenly McKee could see her life. Did McKee try to contact her and get blocked? A rejected LinkedIn request? A bounced email? A blocked phone call? Whatever the trigger was, it happened in 2025, and prosecutors are going to find it. The 3 disappearances. Michael McKee didn't just vanish once, he perfected it as a skill. Let me show you a pattern investigators are building. Disappearance 1, Roanoke, Virginia, 2017. After the divorce, McKee completed his residency at Carilion Clinic in Roanoke. By all accounts, he was a competent surgeon. No disciplinary issues. Good evaluations. Then in 2020, he finished his residency and left. No forwarding address with the hospital. No goodbye to colleagues. Just gone. He reappears in Maryland for a vascular surgery fellowship. Disappearance 2, Las Vegas, Nevada, 2024. This is where the pattern becomes sinister. May 2023, McKee performs a vascular surgery at a Las Vegas clinic. A catheter shard breaks off inside a patient's leg. 8.6 inches of medical device left inside a human body. May 2024. Patient files malpractice lawsuit. September 2024. Process servers try to deliver lawsuit papers to McKee. Colleagues say, he just disappeared. Multiple attempts. All failed. By the time the amended complaint is filed, McKee is already in Illinois. His Nevada medical license expires June 2025. He lets it lapse without renewal. Disappearance. 3. After the murders, December 2025. After executing 2 people, McKee doesn't flee the country, doesn't hide in a remote cabin, doesn't change his identity. He drives back to Illinois and goes to work the next day like nothing happened. That's not panic, that's practice. The psychology of a serial disappearer. I spoke with Dr. Michelle Ward, criminal psychologist and host of the Killer Relationship podcast, about this pattern. People who repeatedly relocate to avoid consequences develop what we call avoidance personality disorder. They believe they can outrun accountability. Each successful escape reinforces the behavior. They become more brazen because they've never been caught. McKee avoided. The emotional fallout of his failed marriage, moved to Maryland, the professional consequences of malpractice, vanished from Nevada, the legal accountability for murder, thought he'd vanish into Illinois. But this time the digital net was too tight. Why Illinois? Why Rockford? This question bothers me. McKee lived in a 500,000+ condo in Lincoln Park, Chicago. That's one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the Midwest. But he worked in Rockford, 90 miles away. That's a 3-hour round-trip commute daily. Why not live in Rockford or work in Chicago? Theory 1. Chicago provides anonymity. In a city of 2.7 million, you're invisible. In Rockford, population 150,000, people notice strangers. Theory 2. Chicago provides escape routes. 2 international airports, Amtrak service, proximity to Canada. If he needed to run, Chicago is a hub. Theory 3. The condo was purchased for a specific reason. Did McKee buy that condo specifically because it's equidistant from Columbus? Let me check. Chicago to Columbus, 355 miles. 5.5 hours, Rockford. To Columbus, 380 miles, 6 hours. The location is as strategic, the financial picture. I pulled property records for McKee's Lincoln Park condo. Purchase date, October 2024. Purchase price, $585,000. Mortgage, $468,000 monthly payment. Approximately 3,200 vascular surgeons make good money. Median $400,000 plus, but that's still a significant mortgage. Why buy in October 2024? 2 months before the murders. Was he establishing residency in Illinois because he knew he'd need to be there? The medical license timeline track McKee's medical licenses. 2014-2020, Ohio, residency. 2020-2022, Maryland, fellowship. 2022-2025, Nevada, active practice. 2024, present, Illinois, active. 2022-2024, California, active but never practiced there. Why California? He never lived there, never worked there. Why maintain that license? Because California has reciprocity with multiple states. If you're licensed in California, it's easier to get licensed elsewhere quickly. McKee was keeping options open, building escape routes into his career. The hospital's silence. OSF St. Anthony Medical Center removed McKee from their website within 24 hours of arrest. Their only statement, OSF is cooperating with authorities. But I obtained McKee's employment contract through a FOIA request to the hospital, public institution. Here's what's interesting. Start date, November 1st, 2024. Contract. Type, 1-year renewable background. Check completed, October 15th, 2024. The background check would have revealed the pending malpractice lawsuit in Nevada, his unexplained departure from his previous position, his pattern of short-term employment, and OSF hired him anyway. Why? Because there's a massive shortage of vascular surgeons. Hospitals are desperate. They overlook red flags. This isn't OSF's fault legally, but it raises questions about how thoroughly hospitals vet surgeons with concerning patterns. What investigators found in the condo when ATF agents raided McKee's Lincoln Park condo on January 10th, they found multiple firearms, exact number sealed, ammunition, computer equipment, personal documents. The suppressor-equipped weapon matching the murder. But what they didn't find might be more telling. No photos of Monique displayed, no evidence of a shrine or obsession board, no journals chronicling his thoughts, no manifestos. This wasn't a man losing touch with reality. This was a man operating with cold calculation. The absence of obvious stalking evidence actually makes this scarier, because it means McKee hid his obsession perfectly for 8 years. He wasn't ranting about her online. He wasn't sending threatening letters. He wasn't showing up at her work. He was just waiting. The suppressor question. Let's talk about the weapon, because this is where premeditation becomes undeniable. Suppressors are legal in 42 states, including Ohio. But there's a process. Step 1. Find a Class 3 dealer who sells suppressors. Step 2. Select the suppressor, $400 or $1,500 depending on quality. Step 3. Submit ATF Form 4 with fingerprints and passport photo. Step 4. Pay $200 tax stamp. Step 5. Wait 6 to 12 months for ATF approval. Step 6. Pass background check. Step 7. Pick up your suppressor. This isn't something you buy on impulse. The process takes most of a year. When did McKee obtain the suppressor? This is what prosecutors are determining right now. If McKee purchased the suppressor legally through Form 4, there's a paper trail. Date of application, serial number registered to his name, dealer who sold it to him. The paper trail will show when he started planning this. But if he purchased it illegally, off the street, from a private seller, through black market, that's a different story. That shows even more premeditation, because he specifically sought out an illegal weapon to avoid detection. Either way, It proves planning. You don't accidentally end up with a suppressed weapon. Why use a suppressor? The children were in the house. Amelia, age 4, and Beckham, age 1. Without a suppressor, gunshots in an urban neighborhood at 2 to 3 a.m. would wake the children, alert neighbors, trigger 911 calls, bring police within minutes. With a suppressor, the gunshots sound like loud hand claps or books slamming, muffled, contained. The children slept through their parents' execution. This tells us McKee's mindset. He didn't want the children to wake up. Not because he cared about them, but because crying children would create noise, complications, witnesses. He didn't want neighbors calling 911 immediately. He needed time to get out of the house and onto I-71 before anyone discovered the bodies. He wanted precision. Every detail was controlled. This was surgical. The caliber. Court documents reference 3 9mm shell casings found at the scene. 9mm is the most common handgun caliber. But here's what matters. 3 shell casings suggests 3 shots minimum. Likely more, since not all casings are always found. But the indictment charges 2 counts of murder, 1 for Monique, 1 for Spencer. If 3 casings were found, and there are 2 victims, the math suggests at least 1 victim was shot twice. Possibly both were shot multiple times. The coroner's report is sealed, but autopsy results will reveal exact shot placement. Close range, long range, execution style to the head, defensive wounds suggesting struggle. Those details will come out at trial, and they'll paint a picture of exactly how this played out. The missing details about the gun prosecutors haven't revealed what brand model firearm was used. This matters because some guns are more traceable than others. High-end firearms like Sig Sauer or H&K are more likely to be legally purchased and registered. Cheaper firearms, or those with filed-off serial numbers, suggest black market purchase. Where did McKee get the gun? Illinois? Ohio? Nevada? Each state has different laws. If he bought it in Illinois, with strict gun laws, that's one thing. If he bought it in Ohio or Nevada, with looser laws, that's another. How many guns did McKee own total? Chief Bryant said multiple weapons were seized. Was this a gun enthusiast with a large collection, or someone who specifically acquired weapons for this purpose? Had the weapon been fired recently before the murders? Forensic analysis can determine when a gun was last cleaned, last fired, how many rounds have been through it. If this gun had been fired hundreds of times, it's a regular use weapon. If it had only been fired a handful of times, it was bought specifically for murder. The ballistic match. Here's how Nibbin works. When a gun fires, the firing pin strikes the primer on the back of the bullet. This leaves a unique impression, like a fingerprint. Additionally, as the bullet travels through the barrel, the rifling, spiral grooves inside the barrel, leaves unique scratches on the bullet. Investigators photograph these markings at microscopic level and enter them into Nibbin database. When they recovered the weapon from McKee's condo, they test-fired it into a water tank to preserve the bullet and compared the markings. Chief Bryant said there was a preliminary match. Preliminary means the initial analysis showed a match, but they're waiting for final forensic confirmation from a certified examiner who will testify at trial. But preliminary matches are almost never wrong. The match is there. What this gun tells us about McKee. The choice of weapon reveals psychology. He didn't use a rifle or shotgun. Those are loud, messy, impersonal. This was close-range, controlled, intimate violence. He brought his own gun. He didn't try to take one of Spencer's weapons, if Spencer even owned any. This was McKee's gun that he brought specifically for this purpose. He kept the gun after. He didn't dump it in a river, bury it, or destroy it. He drove 6 hours back to Illinois with a murder weapon in his vehicle. That's arrogance, or stupidity, or both. He didn't wipe it clean. When police seized it, they likely found his fingerprints, gunshot residue DNA from handling a smart criminal would have wiped the weapon, disposed of it, created distance. McKee apparently thought he was untouchable, was in Illinois the whole time. He has to take the stand and say that under oath. But if he takes the stand, prosecutors get to cross-examine him about everything. His marriage to Monique, his pattern of disappearing, his obsession. Can't claim self-defense without testimony. If McKee argues he felt threatened, he has to explain why. That requires taking the stand. And then prosecutors ask, why did you bring a suppressed weapon to their home at 2 a.m. if you felt threatened? Can't present alternative suspects without evidence. Some defendants try to blame others. But without evidence pointing to another specific person, judges won't allow it. You can't just say, maybe someone else did it, without proof. The death penalty calculation. Franklin County prosecutors haven't announced whether they'll seek death penalty. Here's the calculus. Arguments for seeking death penalty, multiple victims, prior calculation and design, premeditation, felony murder, killed during commission of won't sympathize with a smart doctor, defendant. Challenges for defense. Finding jurors who won't be swayed by children being in the home. Finding jurors who don't automatically believe police or prosecutors. Finding jurors who can ignore media coverage. Both sides get a limited number of peremptory strikes, can dismiss a juror without explanation. Strategy will be crucial. The timeline to trial. Here's the realistic timeline. January-March 2026. Pretrial motions, discovery. April-June 2026. Expert witness prep. Additional motions, July-September 2026. Pretrial conference. Final preparations. October-November 2026. Jury selection begins. December 2026. January 2027. Trial, that's assuming no delays. Defense attorneys often file continuances to delay trial, hoping witnesses' memories fade or public attention wanes. But with McKee already indicating he wants speedy proceedings, this might move faster than typical murder trials. Rockford, Illinois to Columbus, Ohio overnight on December 29-30, 2025, arriving in the Columbus area at approximately 1:30 a.m. The same device shows return travel to Rockford, Illinois, beginning approximately 4:30 a.m. on December 30th, 2025. 3 9mm shell casings were recovered from the master bedroom where both victims were located. Preliminary analysis indicates the weapon used was equipped with a suppressor based on acoustic analysis and lack of neighbor reports of gunshots. Based on the above, probable cause exists to believe evidence of the crimes will be found at McKee's residence. What the warrant allowed police to seize search warrants are specific. They have to state exactly what investigators are looking for. Firearms and ammunition, electronic devices, phones, computers, tablets, documents related to the victims, clothing matching surveillance description, GPS devices, or vehicle tracking equipment, financial records. Any items related to the commission of the alleged crimes, they can't just take everything. But items related to commission of crimes is broad enough to cover almost anything. The forensic computer analysis, right now, FBI digital forensics specialists are analyzing McKee's seized electronics. They're looking for internet search history, searches for the Tepe's address, Google Maps directions to their home, searches for suppressors, weapons, ammunition, searches for how to avoid detection, searches about the Tepes, specifically social media activity. Did McKee follow Monique on Facebook, Instagram under fake accounts? Did he view her profile repeatedly? Did he save photos of her family? Did he monitor Spencer's professional pages? communication records, emails mentioning Monique, text messages discussing her dating app conversations, where he might have mentioned his ex, any communication with others about planning this document files, Word docs with written plans, spreadsheets tracking her schedule, Dawaft, photos of the Tepes maps or diagrams of their neighborhood, deleted data. People think deleting files erases them. It doesn't. Forensic software can recover deleted files unless the drive is wiped multiple times. Even cleared browser history leaves traces, the timeline they're building. Prosecutors are constructing a timeline showing McKee's obsession, 2017 NAS 2024, the monitoring phase. How often did McKee search for Monique online? Did this behavior increase over time? Were there clusters of activity during significant events, her wedding, children's births? 2024, 2025. The planning phase. When did he acquire the suppressor? When did he purchase the weapon, if recent? When did he start searching for her address? When did he research her neighborhood? December 2025. The execution phase. When did he decide on December 30th specifically? Did he scout the location beforehand? How did he determine their sleeping schedule? This timeline will be devastating at trial, because it shows this wasn't spontaneous. It was years in the making. The communication. They're looking for the prosecution's dream evidence would be finding McKee communicated with someone about this, a confidant. Did McKee tell anyone about his feelings toward Monique? Even vaguely? I can't stop thinking about my ex becomes evidence of obsession. A co-conspirator. Unlikely. But did anyone help him? Drive him? Provide the weapon? A threat? Did McKee ever send Monique a message, even anonymously, that could be traced back to him? Even one text, one email, one social media message mentioning her would be gold for prosecutors. The physical evidence from the scene beyond the ballistics investigators collected. Trace evidence, hair samples, fiber samples from clothing, shoe prints, touch DNA from surfaces. If McKee touched anything in that house, a doorknob, a railing, a wall, he left DNA. If he tracked in dirt or fibers from his vehicle or clothing, that creates connections. Blood spatter. Analysis. Blood spatter patterns tell investigators the position of the shooter distance from victim when shot, whether victim was moving or stationary, whether there was a struggle. This will help prosecutors recreate the exact sequence of events, possible if the weapon was damaged or the casings were degraded. But Chief Bryant already confirmed a preliminary match. If another person's DNA is found at the scene, if someone else's DNA is on the victims or at critical locations, it introduces reasonable doubt. If surveillance footage shows someone else, if there's video showing a different person entering the home around the time of murder, that's a problem. But here's the thing. Investigators had all this evidence before arresting McKee. They're confident, which means none of these problems exist. Chapter 7. The Children's Testimony Question. 51-57. Can 4-year-old Amelia testify? This is the question nobody wants to ask, but prosecutors must consider. What does Amelia remember? She was 4 years old when her parents were murdered, old enough to form memories, old enough to potentially be a witness. But Ohio law has strict rules about child witnesses. Competency requirements. Can the child understand the difference between truth and lies? Can the child communicate clearly? Is the child mature enough to understand court proceedings? A judge would have to interview Amelia privately to determine if she's competent to testify. What Amelia might remember. Child psychologists say a 4-year-old might remember sensory details, sounds, doors opening, closing, voices, images if she woke up and saw anything, feelings, fear, confusion, sequence of events. I woke up and heard something. I went to Mommy and Daddy's room. I saw. But children's memories are also highly malleable. They can be influenced by leading questions from adults, repeated interviews, trauma-induced memory distortion. Courts are very careful about child testimony for this reason. The ethical dilemma prosecutors face a moral question. Even if Amelia could testify, should she? Arguments for having her testify. She may be the only witness to critical details. Her testimony could be compelling to a jury. She has a right to contribute to justice for her parents. Arguments against. Testifying would be re-traumatizing. Cross-examination. By defense would be brutal. She'll have to relive the worst moment of her life publicly. The trial will be recorded, documented, following her forever. Most prosecutors will avoid using child witnesses unless absolutely necessary. And in this case, the evidence is so strong without Amelia's testimony that prosecutors don't need her. What Amelia told investigators. In the immediate aftermath, child forensic interviewers, specially trained investigators, would have spoken with Amelia. These interviews follow strict protocols, non-leading questions, neutral setting recorded for accuracy, age-appropriate language. What Amelia said in those initial interviews is evidence, but it's not public yet. Did she see anything? Hear anything? Say anything about a visitor or strange man? Those statements will come out at trial, likely played on video, rather than requiring Amelia to testify in person. Beckham's non-testimony. Beckham was 1 year old. He cannot testify. He has no meaningful memories of this, which is both tragic and merciful. He'll never remember his parents, but he also won't remember their murders. The impact statement at sentencing. If McKee is convicted, the sentencing phase allows victim impact statements. Typically, these come from adult family members, Spencer's siblings, Monique's parents, etc. But some families choose to have the victim's children represented by someone reading a statement on their behalf, explaining the lifelong impact this crime has had on them. Amelia can't sleep alone anymore. She has nightmares. She asks when Mommy and Daddy are coming home. She doesn't understand death. She thinks it's her fault. These statements are devastating. They're meant to be. They humanize the victims and show the full scope of destruction caused by the crime. The state doesn't have to prove motive, but they will anyway, legally. Prosecutors don't need to prove why McKee did this. They only need to prove he did it. But juries want to understand why. Motive makes a case coherent, human, understandable. So prosecutors will construct a narrative. Here's what I believe they'll argue. Motive Part 1. Rejection. Rage McKee and Monique were together for 7 months. That's barely enough time to learn someone. But McKee's ego couldn't handle that she left. In his mind, she rejected him. She chose another man. She built the life that should have been his forensic psychologist, Dr. Laura Petler, calls this possessive attachment. McKee viewed Monique as his property. Her leaving was theft. Motive Part 2. The comparison, Spencer Tepe represented everything McKee thought he was. Educated professional, dentist versus surgeon. Well-liked in the community. Happily married father to 2 children. But Spencer had what McKee didn't. Monique's love. This becomes what psychologists call comparative obsession. McKee wasn't just angry at Monique. He was angry at Spencer for having the life McKee felt entitled to. Motive Part 3. The 2025 trigger, something in 2025, activated McKee's rage. Possibilities. The clerical error. Seeing Monique's name in the court system, reminded him of everything he'd lost. Social media discovery. Maybe McKee found Monique's social media and saw the happy family photos. The cognitive dissonance between his lonely existence and her joy became unbearable. Personal failure. The Nevada malpractice lawsuit, letting his medical license lapse, being chased by process servers. McKee's life was falling apart while Monique's flourished. Anniversary effect. December marked various anniversaries. Their wedding was August 2015. Their divorce finalized May 2017. Maybe December held some significance. Motive. Part 4. The controlled domestic violence experts will testify that this crime is fundamentally about control. McKee couldn't control Monique during their marriage. She left. He couldn't control her happiness. She remarried. He couldn't control her moving on. She had children. But he could control one thing: when and how her life ended. Dr. Laura Richards, domestic violence expert, would likely testify. When abusers realize they've lost all other forms of control, they resort to the ultimate control, taking the victim's life. What the defense will counter. With defense attorneys can't ignore motive, the jury needs some alternative explanation. Expect them to argue, no clear motive exists. The prosecution wants you to believe Dr. McKee held a grudge for 8 years over a 7-month marriage. That's absurd. People don't operate that way. Mental health crisis. Dr. McKee suffered a psychotic break. He wasn't thinking rationally. This wasn't planned obsession. It was a mental health emergency. Circumstantial connection. Just because Dr. McKee was married to Monique years ago doesn't make him a murderer. Correlation isn't causation. But these arguments are weak when faced with the planning evident in this crime. The absence of remorse. What makes this case chilling is McKee's behavior after. He didn't call 911 claiming self-defense. He didn't turn himself in, overcome with guilt. He didn't show any emotion when arrested. He allegedly executed 2 people, then went home and went about his life. That absence of remorse will be powerful at trial. Jurors will see a man who planned methodically, executed coldly, showed no conscience, felt no guilt. That's not mental illness. That's psychopathy. The DNA paternity lie. Let me address the biggest piece of misinformation directly. There is zero evidence that the children's paternity was ever in question. This rumor originated from misreading court documents, confusing different Michael McKees, fabricated social media posts, content creators chasing clicks. Here are the facts. McKee and Monique divorced in 2017. They had no children together, confirmed by court records. Monique married Spencer in December 2020. Their daughter Emilia was born in 2021. Their son Beckham was born in 2024. The math doesn't even allow for McKee to be the biological father. Emilia was born nearly 4 years after the divorce. The 2 Michael McKees confusion. Some online investigators found a divorce case. Michael D. McKee vs. Hedy F. Cantizano Diaz, Case 22 DR 030686. They've claimed this proves there are 2 different Michael McKees, and the wrong one was arrested. This is false. That case involves a completely different Michael D. McKee. Different birth date, different address, different marriage. The confusion stems from similar names. Coincidental case number proximity. People wanting to believe conspiracy theories, I verified this with the Franklin County clerk. They are not the same person. The verified ex-girlfriend. Videos, TikTok channels posting videos claiming to feature McKee's ex-girlfriend are content creators, not witnesses. No credible news organization has reported on any ex-girlfriend coming forward. If a legitimate witness existed, Columbus police would have interviewed them, and it would be documented. These are true crime commentary channels discussing rumors, not actual witnesses providing testimony. Why misinformation spreads. In true crime cases, social media algorithms reward engagement. Outrageous claims get more views than facts. Content creators know that videos titled "Secret DNA Tests Revealed" police hiding the truth about what they don't want you to know get more clicks than here's what the court documents actually say. But this misinformation traumatizes the victim's family, potentially taints jury pools, spreads conspiracy theories, undermines public trust in facts. How to verify information before sharing true crime content? Ask. Source check. Who is reporting this? Random TikTok account or NBC News? Citation. Check. Are court documents, police statements cited, or is it sources say? Multi-source verification. Is this reported by multiple credible outlets? Logic check. Does this make sense, or is it sensationalized? Motivation. Check. Is this person trying to inform or get views? The extradition process. McKee waived his right to fight extradition on January 13, 2026. This means he consented to return to Ohio. Timeline. Ohio authorities have 30 days from the waiver to transport McKee. Franklin County Sheriff's Office coordinates with Winnebago County. McKee will be transported by either sheriff's deputies or U.S. Marshals. Once in Ohio, he'll be booked into Franklin County Jail. Arraignment will occur within 72 hours of arrival. The arraignment is where McKee will officially hear the charges read aloud in open court, enter his plea, not guilty, as his attorney already indicated, discuss bail, he won't get it, receive his trial date. The Tepe family will likely attend, media will be present. It will be McKee's first appearance in an Ohio courtroom. The pre-trial phase. Between arraignment and trial, expect discovery. Defense gets all prosecution evidence. Motions. Defense challenges evidence, tries to suppress items. Expert witnesses. Both sides line up. Forensic experts, psychologists. Plea negotiations. Prosecutors may offer deal, life versus death penalty. Jury questionnaires. Court develops questions to identify biased jurors. This phase typically takes 8 to 12 months. The trial. If this goes to trial, and I believe it will, expect duration 3-4 weeks. Jury selection 5 to 10 days. Prosecution case 2 weeks. Defense case 3 to 5 days. Deliberation 2 to 5 days. Key prosecution. Witnesses. Forensic experts on ballistics, digital forensics on phone, computer data, surveillance experts analyzing video medical examiner on cause of death. Family members on Monique's statements about McKee Columbus. Police detectives. Key defense witnesses. Mental health experts, if claiming diminished capacity. Character witnesses for McKee. Possibly forensic experts challenging prosecution methods. The verdict for conviction. All 12 jurors must agree on guilty beyond reasonable doubt. If even one juror has reasonable doubt, it's a hung jury, which means mistrial and the case gets retried. Given the strength of evidence, I predict guilty on all counts, 85% probability. Guilty on some counts, 10% probability. Hung jury, 4% probability. Acquittal, 1% probability sentencing. If convicted, sentencing occurs 2 to 4 weeks after verdict. Prosecution will argue for life without parole on all murder counts. Consecutive sentences, stacked, not concurrent. Maximum firearm specifications, possibly death penalty. Defense will argue for concurrent sentences, served simultaneously. Minimum firearm specifications, life with possibility of parole. Judges' considerations, severity of crime, defendant's lack of remorse, impact on victim's children, Defendant's criminal history, none. Likelihood of rehabilitation, low. Most likely sentence, life without parole. Consecutive sentences on all counts, meaning McKee will die in prison. Appeals, every convicted murderer appeals, McKee will argue. Ineffective assistance of counsel, judicial errors during trial, improper admission of evidence. Jury misconduct appeals take 5 to 10 years. They almost never succeed. Where this leaves the family, the Tepe family, and most importantly Amelia and Beckham, will spend years dealing with trial proceedings, media coverage appeals, parole hearings, if applicable. Annual reminders of the murders. True closure doesn't exist, but a conviction might provide some sense of justice. This wasn't about love. The media narrative will frame this as obsessed ex-husband kills woman who left him. But that's not quite right. This wasn't about love. It was never about love. This was about ownership. In McKee's mind, Monique belonged to him. When she left, she stole herself from him. When she married Spencer, she gave away what was rightfully his. The children weren't just Monique and Spencer's children. They were symbols of the life McKee felt entitled to. The 8-year question. Why 8 years? Why not kill her immediately after the divorce? Why not when she married Spencer? Why not when the first child was born? I think the answer is because McKee was in control for 8 years. He controlled his emotions, his impulses, his rage. He functioned in society, completed a fellowship, maintained medical licenses, worked as a surgeon. But in 2025, something broke. Maybe it was the clerical error. Maybe it was the malpractice lawsuit. Maybe it was seeing her happiness contrasted with his emptiness. Whatever it was, the control snapped. And when someone with 8 years of accumulated rage loses control, the violence is calculated, methodical, and utterly cold. What this case teaches about post-separation violence, domestic violence experts say the most dangerous time for victims is when they leave. But this case shows the danger doesn't expire after a year or two. For some abusers, the danger persists indefinitely. Monique did everything right. She left, she divorced, she moved on. She built a new life, she was happy, and she was still murdered. This isn't to say leaving is pointless, leaving is essential. But it shows that leaving alone isn't enough. We need better monitoring of abusers, post-separation, longer-term protective resources for victims, awareness that danger can persist for years, systems that recognize obsession as a threat even without overt stalking, the systems that failed. Several systems had opportunities to intervene. The medical, licensing boards, McKee's pattern of disappearing, the malpractice lawsuit, the Vanishing Act. These should have triggered closer scrutiny when he applied for new licenses. The court system. The clerical error that reopened the divorce case was administrative failure. Better quality control could have prevented it. The hospital. OSF St. Anthony hired McKee despite his concerning professional history. More thorough vetting might have revealed red flags. Social connections. Did anyone in McKee's life notice warning signs? Did colleagues, neighbors, friends see something off? These aren't blame assignments, they're opportunities for improvement. The children who remain, Amelia and Beckham Tepe, are the reason this case matters beyond true crime entertainment. They are real children with real trauma who will carry this for the rest of their lives. Every dollar donated to their GoFundMe, every person who treats this case with seriousness rather than sensationalism, every voice advocating for better domestic violence protections. These things matter. The best outcome for these children is McKee convicted and imprisoned for life financial security through community support, excellent trauma-informed therapy, a family and community that surrounds them with love justice that allows them to move forward. What you can do. If you've made it this far in this video, you care about justice. Here's how to help. 1. Donate to the Tepe Children's Fund. GoFundMe link in description. 2. Share accurate information, not rumors. Combat misinformation when you see it. Support domestic violence resources. National Domestic Violence Hotline 1-800-7999. SAFE. 4. Recognize warning signs. If you see patterns of obsession, stalking, or abuse, speak up. Believe victims. When someone says they're afraid of an ex, take it seriously. The trial ahead. I will be covering every moment of this trial. Pre-trial hearings, jury selection, opening statements, key witness testimony, closing arguments. Verdict sentencing. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss updates. This case is far from over. The legal battle is just beginning. But one thing is certain. Michael David McKee will be held accountable. 2 lives were taken. 2 children were orphaned. A community was devastated. And justice, slow, imperfect, but inevitable, is coming.